In a small, modest town in Germany, the world was about to witness the birth of a future icon. But at the time, it was far from clear that a revolution was underway. Born in 1881, Hans Wilsdorf entered the world in a period of stark contrasts. While other children were indulging in the comforts of growing up in a prosperous Europe, Hans was experiencing the kind of childhood that shaped him into a person of tenacity and resilience, traits that would define his future. Hans's early life was marred by hardship. His father passed away when he was just 9 years old, leaving his mother to shoulder the burden of raising him alone. Financial strain was a constant in his household, with resources dwindling and opportunities scarce. His family was poor, and the future seemed uncertain. By the age of 14, Hans was forced to leave school and take on work to help support his mother and younger siblings. In many ways, his education, both formal and informal, was shaped by necessity rather than desire, and it was a life of responsibility that would shape his entrepreneurial mindset. Despite the grim reality of his situation, Hans had an innate curiosity, a spark that could not be extinguished by the poverty that surrounded him. He was captivated by the precision of craftsmanship and the allure of mechanical objects, particularly watches. His fascination with timepieces was not born from luxury, but rather from an almost scientific curiosity. In a world where every tick of the clock represented the struggle for survival, a finely crafted watch symbolized the potential for control, mastery, and progress. To Hans, it wasn't just about telling time, it was about mastering it. At the age of 16, Hans left his hometown and moved to Geneva, Switzerland, seeking better opportunities. Geneva, a city renowned for its watchmaking heritage, was a city of dreams for someone like Hans, whose interests in watches were growing with every passing year. But it wasn't an easy path. As a young boy without financial backing, Hans had little more than ambition to fuel his journey. Geneva, in the late 19th century, was a hub of watchmaking excellence, but entry into this world was not granted easily. Hans began his journey in the watch industry by taking up a job at a local watchmaking company. It was here that he learned the delicate intricacies of horology, the science of timekeeping. Although he didn't yet know it, this period of apprenticeship would lay the foundation for what would become one of the most prestigious brands in history. The job was modest, paying a small wage, but it provided Hans with invaluable experience. He was learning the delicate art of watchmaking from the inside out, and it wasn't long before his entrepreneurial instincts kicked in. Hans knew that this craft, while steeped in tradition, was primed for innovation. His drive was not only to master the mechanics of watches, but to create something that would stand the test of time, something that could rise above the limitations of his humble beginnings. But the real turning point came when Hans was introduced to the world of high-end watch distribution. After working with a variety of watchmakers and suppliers, he realized the untapped potential in the watch market. Despite the incredible craftsmanship coming out of Switzerland, the general public's access to high-quality timepieces was limited. This gap in the market presented Hans with a golden opportunity. He could provide the world with watches that combined craftsmanship, reliability, and luxury, but at a scale never before seen. The vision that started to take shape in Hans's mind was bold. He didn't just want to sell watches, he wanted to change the way people viewed time itself. At the turn of the century, watches were often seen as luxury items reserved for the elite. But Hans believed that everyone, no matter their social status, deserved to wear a fine, reliable watch. This egalitarian view of luxury would become a cornerstone of his future brand. He took a leap of faith, moving to London in 1905, where he founded the Wilsdorf and Davis Company with his business partner, Alfred Davis. The company initially sold Swiss-made timepieces, which were assembled and marketed in London. However, it wasn't long before Hans realized that a name like Wilsdorf and Davis didn't have the cachet necessary to distinguish his brand in a crowded market. He needed something that was as timeless as the watches themselves. Hans was driven by a desire to create something truly iconic. He wanted a name that would evoke luxury, reliability, and precision. He began experimenting with various brand names, but none of them felt right. That is, until he thought of a name that would forever change the world of horology: Rolex. The name Rolex was simple, easy to pronounce in multiple languages, and carried an air of elegance and sophistication. It had the same rhythmic sound as a ticking clock, a subtle nod to the very nature of what he was trying to achieve. And so, in 1908, the Rolex brand was born. However, creating a name and a logo was only the beginning. Hans Wilsdorf was about to embark on a journey that would see him defy the odds and build a company that would forever change the luxury watch industry. The road ahead was fraught with challenges, but his early struggles had forged a man who was undeterred by adversity. As we dive deeper into Hans Wilsdorf's story, we'll see how a man from a poor background, with nothing but his vision and determination, would build the Rolex brand into the icon it is today, a name synonymous with precision, luxury, and excellence. But first, we must understand how his early experiences of hardship and perseverance would lay the foundation for the Rolex legacy. After founding his company, Wilsdorf and Davis, in 1905, Hans Wilsdorf had only just begun to scratch the surface of what would become one of the most influential legacies in business history. But while the brand had yet to become a household name, the seeds of what would later become the Rolex empire were already being sown in Wilsdorf's mind. He was no longer just a man trying to make a living. He was a visionary who saw the potential to revolutionize the entire watchmaking industry. Wilsdorf's early success came not from creating luxurious watches, but from making them accessible. Swiss watches were already known for their precision, but they were often expensive and out of reach for the average person. Wilsdorf believed that this was a major flaw in the system. He wanted to produce watches that were both high quality and affordable, allowing people from all walks of life to wear something that felt both prestigious and reliable. But the question remained, how could he achieve this? The first breakthrough came in 1908 when Wilsdorf registered the name Rolex. The name itself was an audacious move. It was short, easy to remember, and sounded elegant, a key characteristic that would go on to define the brand's identity. But a name alone was not enough to make a mark in the highly competitive world of watchmaking. In 1909, Wilsdorf made another critical decision. He wanted to create watches that were not only reliable, but also precise and durable. The notion of a wristwatch that could keep time as accurately as a pocket watch was still a new concept at the time, and many believed it was impossible. At the time, wristwatches were considered feminine or impractical, and the men who wore them often did so as a fashion statement rather than for the purpose of keeping precise time. But Hans saw an opportunity. He set out to prove that wristwatches could be as reliable, if not more so, than pocket watches. Wilsdorf's solution came in the form of a radical innovation: the waterproof watch. At the time, a common problem with wristwatches was their vulnerability to dust and moisture. In 1926, Wilsdorf unveiled the Rolex Oyster, a groundbreaking design that featured a sealed case to protect the watch's inner mechanisms from water and dirt. The Oyster was a game changer. It was the first truly waterproof wristwatch, and it immediately set Rolex apart from the competition. The Oyster was not just a technical achievement, it was a brilliant marketing move. To prove the watch's waterproof capabilities, Wilsdorf sent a Rolex Oyster to Mercedes Gleitze, a British swimmer who was attempting to swim across the English Channel. As Gleitzer swam through the icy waters, the Rolex Oyster remained intact, continuing to function flawlessly. The stunt was a public relations triumph. It solidified Rolex's reputation for precision, durability, and reliability, and the Oyster became an icon of innovation in the watchmaking world. However, the road to success was far from smooth. Wilsdorf knew that while the Oyster had garnered attention, he still needed to do more to set Rolex apart in an increasingly crowded market. Luxury watches were becoming more than just tools for telling time, they were status symbols. And so, Wilsdorf made another critical decision. He would make Rolex synonymous with excellence in craftsmanship and luxury. He wanted his watches to be worn by kings, explorers, and celebrities, a symbol of success that transcended mere functionality. But creating a luxury brand was no small feat. Wilsdorf understood that in order to capture the elite market, he needed to ensure that Rolex watches were not only reliable, but also aesthetically appealing. The design of the watches had to reflect the same precision and excellence that went into their construction. He began working closely with the best craftsmen in Switzerland, sourcing the finest materials and incorporating advanced design techniques into every watch. The attention to detail was unmatched. In the late 1920s, the iconic Rolex logo began to appear on every watch, a subtle but significant symbol of the brand's prestige. The crown logo represented the values of royalty, precision, and sophistication. It was a mark that immediately conveyed the luxury and durability of the timepiece. The logo was not just a symbol, it was a promise. In 1931, Wilsdorf took yet another bold step forward. He introduced the world to the first automatic wristwatch, the Rolex Perpetual. The Perpetual was equipped with a self-winding movement that harnessed the energy of the wearer's movements to power the watch, eliminating the need for manual winding. This was another breakthrough that would set Rolex apart from other brands. The Perpetual's movement was a mechanical marvel that marked a major step forward in the evolution of wristwatches. It was an innovation that was both practical and luxurious, a testament to Wilsdorf's ability to fuse technology with elegance. As the 1930s came to a close, Rolex had firmly established itself as a brand that was synonymous with durability, precision, and luxury. The Rolex Oyster had become an icon of resilience, and the brand's reputation was growing. However, Wilsdorf was not content to rest on his laurels. He understood that in order to stay at the top, he had to continue innovating and pushing the boundaries of what was possible in watchmaking. The world was on the cusp of even greater change, and Wilsdorf was ready to seize the opportunities that lay ahead. The next few decades would see Rolex evolve into the luxury powerhouse that it is today. But it was during these formative years that the foundation of the brand was truly laid. Wilsdorf's relentless pursuit of excellence, his innovative spirit, and his unwavering commitment to quality would carry Rolex to new heights and cement its place as the most prestigious watchmaker in the world. By the 1930s, Hans Wilsdorf had already accomplished what many thought impossible. He had turned Rolex into a household name. What began as a small, humble company producing reliable, affordable timepieces was now transforming into a global symbol of luxury, precision, and innovation. But even as the brand rose to prominence, the journey was far from easy. Success for Wilsdorf would never be about simply resting on his laurels. It was about constantly pushing forward, seeking out new horizons, and overcoming whatever challenges stood in his way. Rolex's growing prestige during the 1930s was due in part to its reputation for durability and innovation, but it was also the result of Wilsdorf's deep understanding of the power of marketing. Unlike many of his competitors, Wilsdorf knew that a watch was not just a tool for telling time. It was an expression of identity. As the 1930s rolled on, Rolex watches began to find their way into the hands of influential individuals across the globe. One of the most significant moments in this period came in 1931 when Rolex became synonymous with exploration. Wilsdorf understood that in order to create a brand that was universally recognized as the pinnacle of precision, luxury, and reliability, he needed to align Rolex with the world's greatest adventurers, people who tested the limits of human endurance and defied the laws of nature. In 1931, Wilsdorf partnered with the legendary British mountaineer George Mallory to create a Rolex watch designed to withstand the harshest conditions. Mallory had famously been one of the first climbers to attempt Everest, and his relationship with Rolex signaled the beginning of the brand's long association with exploration and adventure. Mallory's connection to Rolex would go on to solidify the brand's reputation as the ultimate tool for those who sought to push the boundaries of human achievement. Then, in 1933, Rolex introduced another groundbreaking invention that would forever change the landscape of watchmaking: the Rolex Bubbleback. The Bubbleback was the first wristwatch to feature an automatic movement in a waterproof case. It was a major technical leap forward and solidified Rolex's position as a true innovator in the industry. The Bubbleback was widely considered a triumph of mechanical engineering, as it was both elegant and practical, a perfect combination of form and function that was becoming synonymous with the Rolex brand. But as the world moved into the 1940s, no one could have predicted the challenges that lay ahead. The outbreak of World War II in 1939 would alter the course of history in ways no one could have anticipated. For Wilsdorf and Rolex, the war would present both significant challenges and new opportunities. While many watchmakers struggled to keep their businesses afloat during the war, Rolex managed to not only survive, but thrive, thanks to Wilsdorf's foresight and business acumen. During the war, Wilsdorf took several steps to ensure that Rolex would remain competitive. First, he focused on ensuring that the company maintained its commitment to craftsmanship and innovation, even in the face of wartime scarcity. Rolex watches became highly sought after for their precision and reliability, and many were worn by soldiers and officers during the conflict. The robustness and dependability of the Rolex brand earned it a reputation that extended far beyond the world of luxury and into the realm of practicality. One of the most notable moments in Rolex's wartime legacy came when the company introduced the Rolex Milgauss in 1956. Designed specifically for scientists and engineers working in environments with strong magnetic fields, the Milgauss was able to withstand exposure to electromagnetic interference, a feat that had never been accomplished before in a wristwatch. This innovative design further cemented Rolex's position as a leader in the world of precision timekeeping. The war years also saw Wilsdorf taking a more hands-on approach to the direction of Rolex. He understood that the post-war world would present new opportunities, but also new risks. The growing demand for luxury goods meant that Rolex needed to adapt quickly to stay ahead of the competition. Wilsdorf's instinct was to focus on the quality of the watches, ensuring that every Rolex remained a symbol of the brand's commitment to perfection. In the 1950s and 1960s, Rolex continued to innovate, introducing iconic models that would go on to become symbols of prestige and achievement. The Rolex Submariner, released in 1953, became the world's first professional diver's watch, capable of withstanding extreme depths. The Submariner's combination of durability and elegance made it a favorite among explorers, divers, and those who simply wanted a timepiece that exuded sophistication. At the same time, Wilsdorf saw the growing influence of the United States and knew that Rolex needed to further establish itself in the American market to solidify its global dominance. Rolex began collaborating with celebrities, athletes, and influential figures. In the entertainment industry, the connection between Rolex and figures like Paul Newman, who wore his signature Paul Newman Daytona model, helped propel the brand into the realm of pop culture. By the 1960s, Rolex had become a status symbol, not just for royalty or explorers, but for the rich and famous from all walks of life. But Wilsdorf's vision went beyond just making Rolex a luxury brand for the wealthy elite. He believed in the concept of timelessness, watches that would last for generations, heirlooms that would be passed down from father to son. And as the world entered the 1970s, Rolex's reputation for lasting quality and exceptional craftsmanship only continued to grow. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Rolex continued to maintain its position as the pinnacle of luxury watches. The company focused on perfecting its existing models, improving their designs and materials, and ensuring that every piece was a work of art. As the demand for Rolex watches grew worldwide, Wilsdorf's commitment to maintaining the brand's reputation for excellence remained unwavering. By the time of his death in 1960, Hans Wilsdorf had achieved his goal of creating a brand that would stand the test of time. Rolex was no longer just a watch company. It was a global symbol of success, prestige, and excellence. The watches that bore his name were worn by world leaders, athletes, and explorers, becoming synonymous with achievement and determination. By the time of Hans Wilsdorf's death in 1960, Rolex had already ascended to the pinnacle of horological excellence. However, what makes the legacy of Rolex so extraordinary is not simply the genius of one man, but the company's ability to adapt and evolve while staying true to the values that Wilsdorf instilled in it. Wilsdorf's vision was clear: create watches that were the epitome of precision, reliability, and luxury. And even after his passing, the company continued to live by this creed. In the decades following Wilsdorf's death, Rolex faced a rapidly changing world. The 1960s and 1970s saw a major shift in the watch industry with the advent of quartz technology. As electronic watches began to flood the market, many traditional watchmakers struggled to compete with the cheaper, more accurate timepieces. But Rolex, under the leadership of the Wilsdorf Foundation, which now oversaw the company, refused to compromise on its core principles. Rolex's response to the quartz crisis was not to abandon traditional mechanical watchmaking, but rather to double down on what made the brand unique: its dedication to craftsmanship and quality. While many of Rolex's competitors embraced quartz technology to remain competitive, Rolex chose to stick with mechanical movements, albeit refining them to make them even more precise and durable. The brand's unwavering commitment to tradition made it stand out as a symbol of timeless luxury, even in an age dominated by the rise of cheaper, mass-produced electronic watches. In 1985, Rolex made a bold move that would help solidify its position at the forefront of luxury watchmaking for the coming decades. The company introduced the Rolex 904L steel, a unique form of stainless steel that is highly resistant to corrosion and maintains its luster for decades. This move marked Rolex's continued commitment to creating watches that were not only beautiful and reliable, but also enduring. The introduction of this new steel was a testament to the brand's dedication to innovation without sacrificing quality. But it wasn't just technology and materials that set Rolex apart. It was also the brand's ability to remain relevant in the face of a rapidly changing global landscape. Rolex continued to adapt, bringing new models to market while maintaining a sense of exclusivity and prestige that made the brand so desirable. The 1980s and 1990s saw the launch of iconic models such as the Rolex Sea Dweller and the Rolex Daytona, each of which became a symbol of achievement in different fields, from diving to motorsport. The Rolex Daytona in particular became an emblem of speed and precision. It was originally designed as a tool for professional race car drivers, and over the years it became synonymous with high performance and luxury. The watch's connection to the world of motorsports was solidified in the 1960s when the famous actor and racing enthusiast Paul Newman began wearing a Daytona. Today, the Daytona is perhaps one of the most iconic models in the Rolex lineup, known for its timeless design and its association with the world of elite athletes and celebrities. As the 21st century unfolded, Rolex's prominence continued to rise. The brand's ability to innovate while retaining its heritage became the cornerstone of its success. The company introduced new innovations like the Rolex Sky Dweller in 2012, a highly sophisticated model that incorporated a dual time zone display, a perfect example of Rolex's ability to combine advanced technology with traditional Swiss watchmaking. By the 2010s, Rolex was not just a symbol of luxury, it had become an indomitable force in the world of luxury brands, standing shoulder to shoulder with companies like Ferrari, Louis Vuitton, and Patek Philippe. Rolex watches were worn by the rich, the powerful, the famous, and the influential. Its timepieces had become much more than simple accessories. They were the embodiment of success and the realization of a dream that began with Hans Wilsdorf's ambition to create a watch that was both a tool and a symbol of prestige. But perhaps one of the most remarkable aspects of Rolex in the modern era is the company's steadfast commitment to philanthropy. Since its inception, the Wilsdorf Foundation has been dedicated to using Rolex's profits to fund charitable causes and support social initiatives around the world. From education to environmental sustainability, the company has worked to give back to society in meaningful ways, ensuring that the legacy of Hans Wilsdorf lives on through its philanthropic endeavors. Rolex also continues to play an influential role in the world of exploration and achievement. The company's iconic watches have been worn by pioneers of every kind, from the first men to walk on the moon to deep-sea divers who have explored the furthest reaches of the ocean. In 2008, Rolex even partnered with the famed explorer Sir Ranulph Fiennes, one of the world's greatest living adventurers, to support his expeditions to the most remote corners of the globe. Fiennes, a lifelong Rolex wearer, epitomized the brand's connection to human endurance and exploration, and Rolex's continued association with such figures reinforced its image as the ultimate tool for those who dare to push the limits of what is possible. Yet even as the brand became more powerful and influential than ever before, it never lost sight of the original values that Wilsdorf had laid out so many years ago: precision, reliability, and craftsmanship. Rolex remains a symbol of perfection, not just in terms of its watches, but in the way it conducts its business and interacts with its customers. In 2020, Rolex faced another test: the COVID-19 pandemic, which shook the world to its core. Like many other companies, Rolex had to adjust to the new reality, but it quickly adapted, maintaining its reputation for excellence even during such uncertain times. The resilience of the brand, both in terms of its watches and its business strategy, showed that the spirit of Hans Wilsdorf still lived on in every watch that bore the Rolex name. Today, Rolex continues to lead the world of horology, with its watches commanding respect and admiration worldwide. What began as a simple dream by a young boy from a poor family in Germany has grown into a global empire, revered by collectors, athletes, and executives alike. The legacy of Hans Wilsdorf The visionary who dared to dream big lives on in every Rolex watch, a symbol of achievement, luxury, and timeless excellence. In the world of luxury watches, there are many brands that have come and gone, but there is one name that has remained synonymous with excellence, precision, and status: Rolex. What began as a humble dream from a poor boy in the streets of early 20th century Germany has become the epitome of craftsmanship, resilience, and luxury. But the true triumph of Rolex and of Hans Wilsdorf lies not just in the watches themselves, but in the values that have defined the brand since its inception. Values that continue to inspire and resonate with people all over the world. Wilsdorf's vision was simple: to create watches that would be both tools of precision and symbols of status. He achieved this by merging cutting-edge technology with timeless craftsmanship, producing timepieces that were not only functional, but also beautiful. His ability to think beyond the ordinary, to envision a watch that could withstand the harshest conditions, and his commitment to never compromising on quality are what ultimately set Rolex apart from all its competitors. But perhaps most importantly, it was his ability to see opportunity where others saw adversity that made him truly remarkable. The story of Hans Wilsdorf and Rolex is one of perseverance, vision, and an unyielding belief that greatness was possible, even when the odds were stacked against him. As a boy who came from poverty and faced numerous hardships, Wilsdorf's journey to success was far from easy. Yet, his story is a testament to the idea that with hard work, determination, and a relentless pursuit of excellence, anyone can overcome their circumstances and achieve greatness. One of the most enduring aspects of the Rolex legacy is its unwavering commitment to quality and innovation. From the creation of the Rolex Oyster in 1926 to the introduction of the first automatic wristwatch in 1931, Rolex was always ahead of the curve, setting new standards for the industry. But Wilsdorf's greatest gift was not just his technical innovations. It was his ability to build a brand that would outlast the generations of watchmakers that came before and after him. Rolex became not just a watch, but a symbol of success and accomplishment. Rolex's association with some of the world's most influential figures and moments in history has only solidified its status as the ultimate luxury brand. From explorers who risked their lives in the most dangerous corners of the earth, to athletes who broke world records, Rolex has been there every step of the way. The company's watches have become more than just tools for measuring time. They are symbols of human achievement, of pushing boundaries, and of refusing to settle for anything less than perfection. As the brand entered the 21st century, it continued to build on its legacy, embracing new technologies while remaining true to the values that made Rolex great. The company's commitment to philanthropy, sustainability, and supporting the arts and sciences has further elevated its reputation as a brand that is not only about luxury, but also about making a positive impact on the world. Rolex watches continue to be worn by world leaders, celebrities, athletes, and adventurers alike. Every Rolex watch that leaves the factory is a testament to Wilsdorf's vision and his relentless pursuit of excellence. But even more than that, it is a reminder that the story of Hans Wilsdorf is one of inspiration, an inspiration for all those who dare to dream big and take on the impossible. The brand's enduring success is rooted in the core values that Wilsdorf owed, embedded in the very fabric of Rolex: the pursuit of excellence, the belief that anything is possible with hard work and vision, and the unwavering commitment to quality. It's a legacy that transcends generations and continues to inspire individuals worldwide. In many ways, the story of Rolex is not just about watches. It's about the journey of one man who dared to believe in something greater than himself. Hans Wilsdorf's story is one of transformation, of taking the raw materials of his life and forging them into something truly extraordinary. The fact that his company continues to thrive, even decades after his passing, speaks to the strength of his vision and the resilience of the brand he built. Rolex is more than just a brand. It is a testament to the power of vision, to the idea that no matter where you start, you can achieve greatness. It's a symbol of success and perseverance, a reminder that the most incredible journeys often begin in the humblest of circumstances. Wilsdorf's story is a true reflection of the human spirit, proving that with determination, integrity, and an unshakable belief in one's dreams, anything is possible. As we look to the future, it's clear that Rolex will continue to define the world of luxury watchmaking for generations to come. Whether it's an explorer summiting Mount Everest, an athlete breaking a world record, or a business leader making history, a Rolex watch will forever be the companion of those who dare to push the limits of what is possible. Hans Wilsdorf's legacy lives on in every tick of the Rolex watch, a reminder that greatness is not just about the destination, but the journey itself. And in the world of horology, that journey will forever be associated with the name Rolex. As you've just seen, the journey of Hans Wilsdorf and the Rolex brand is a true testament to the power of perseverance, vision, and ambition. What's your story? What dreams do you have that seem impossible? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories about the true protagonists of the past. Your journey might just be the next one we explore.